Good morning, shalom, peace be unto you. Welcome back to Sister Story Time. I am your host, Sister Historian ChayaFyah. Today we are continuing reading the poem Paradise Lost by John Milton. The link is in the description box if you'd like to get it for yourself. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and donate to the channel. Without further ado, let's get started. Book 5, The Argument. Morning approached. Eve relates to Adam her troublesome dream. He likes it not, yet comforts her. Comfort their day labors, their morning hymn at the door of their bower. God, to render man inexcusable, sends Raphael to admonish him of his obedience, of his free estate, of his enemy near at hand, who he is and why his enemy, and whatever else fail Adam to know. Raphael comes down to paradise, his appearance described, his coming discerned by Adam afar off, sitting at the door of his bower. He goes out to meet him, brings him to his lodge, trained him with the choicest fruits of paradise by Eve, their discourse at the table. Raphael performs his message, Adam of his state and of his enemy, waits at Adam's request who that enemy is and how he came to be so, beginning from his rebellion and the occasion thereof, how he drew his legions out to the first north, and there incited them to rebel with him, persuading all but only Abdiel, a seraph, who in argument dissuades and opposes him, then forsakes him. Now, now mourn her rosy steps in the eastern clime advancing, sold the earth with pearl. When Adam waked, so accustomed, for his sleep was very light, from pure digestion bred, and temperate vapors bland, which the only sound of leaves and humming thrills Aurora span, lightly dispersed, and the shrill matin song of birds on every bough, so much the more his wonder was to find unawakened Eve with tresses discomposed and glowing cheek as through unquiet rest. He on his side, leaning half raised, with looks of cordial love, hung over her enamored, and beheld beauty, which, whether waking or asleep, shot forth peculiar graces. Then, with voice mild as when Zephyrus on Flora breathes, her hand, soft touching, whispered thus. Excuse me. Awake, my fairest, my espoused, my latest found, heaven's last best gift, ever new light awake. The morning shine, the field calls us. We lose the prime to mark how spring our tended plants, how blows the citron grove, what drops the myrrh, and what the balmy reed, how nature paints her colors, how the bee sits on the bloom extracting liquid sweet. Such whispering waked her, but with startled eye on Adam, whom embracing thus she spake. O soul, in whom my thoughts find all repose, my glory, my perfection, my perfection, glad I see thy face, and morn returned. For I this night, such night till this I never passed, have dreamed. If dreamed, not as I often want to be, works of day past, or morrow's next design, but of offense and trouble, which my mind knew never till this irksome night. Methought close at mine ear one called me forth to walk with gentle voice. I thought it thine. It said, why sleepest thou, Eve? Now is the pleasant time, the cool, the silent, save where silence yields to the night warbling bird, that now awake, tuned sweet as his love labored song. Now reigns full orb the moon, and with more pleasing light, shadowy sets off the things. In vain, if none regard, and with all his eye, whom to behold but thee, nature's desire, in whose sight all things joy, with ravishment attracted by thy beauty still to gaze. I rose as at thy call, but found thee not. To find thee I directed then my walk, and on, methought, alone I passed through ways that brought me on a sudden to the tree of interdicted knowledge. What is that? Interdicted? Fair it seemed, much fairer to my fancy than by day. And as I wandering looked, beside it stood one shaped and winged like one of those from heaven by us oft seen. His dewy locks distilled ambrosia, on that tree he also gazed. And O fair plant, said he, with fruit surcharged, deigns none to ease thy load, and taste thy sweet, nor God nor man. Is knowledge so despised, or envy, or what reserve forbids to taste? Forbid who will, none shall from me withhold longer thy offered good. Why else set here? This said, he paused not, but with venturous arm he plucked, he tasted. Me damp horror chilled at such bold words vouched with a deed so bold. But he thus overjoyed, O fruit divine, sweet as thyself, but much more sweet thus cropped. Forbidden here it seems, as only fit for gods, able to make of men. And why not gods and men, since good the more communicated, the more grows, the art not impaired, but honor more. Here, happy creature, fair angelic Eve, partake thou also. Happy though thou art, happier thou mayest be, worthier canst not be. Taste this, and be henceforth among the gods, thyself a goddess, not to earth confined, but sometimes in the air, as we. Sometimes ascend to heaven by merit thine, and see what life the gods live there, and such live thou. So saying, he drew nigh, and to me held, even to my mouth of that same fruit, held part which he had plucked. The pleasant savory smell so quickened appetite, that I, methought, could not but taste. Forthwith up to the clouds with him I flew, and underneath beheld the earth outstretched immense, a prospect wide and various. Wondering at my flight and change to this high exaltation, suddenly my guide was gone, and I, methought, sunk down and fell asleep. But oh, how glad I waked to find this but a dream. Thus Eve heard I created, thus Adam sad. Best of myself, dear half, the trouble of thy thoughts this night and sleep with me equally. Nor can I like this uncouth dream of evil sprung, I fear, yet evil when in thee can harbor none created pure. But know that the soul are many lesser qualities that serve reason as chief. Among these, fancy next her office holds. Of all external things which the five watchful senses represent, she forms imaginations, airy shapes, which reason, joining or disjoining, frames all what we affirm or what deny, and call our knowledge or opinion. Retiring into her private cell, nature rests. Often absence, mimic fancy wakes to imitate her, but its joining shapes, wild work produces oft, and most in dreams. ill matching words and deeds long past or late. Some such resemblances methinks I find of our last evening's talk in this thy dream, but with addition strange, yet be not sad. Evil into the mind of God or man may come and go, so unapproved, and leave no spot or blame behind, which gives me hope that when sleep thou didst abhor to dream, waking thou never wilt consent to do. Be not disheartened then, nor cloud those looks that want to be more cheerful and serene than when fair morning first smiles on the world, and let us to our fresh employments rise. Among the groves, the fountains, and the flowers that open now their choicest bosom smells, reserved from night and kept for thee in store. So cheered he his fair spouse, and she was cheered, but silently a gentle tear let fall from either eye and wiped them with her hair. Two other precious drops that ready stood, each in their crystal sluice, he, ere they fell, kissed as the gracious signs of sweet remorse and pious awe they feared to have offended. So all cleared and to the field they haste, but first from under shady arborous roof, soon as they forth were come to open sight of day spring, and the sun, who scarce uprisen, with heels yet hovering over the ocean brim, shot parallel to the earth his dewy ray, discovering in wide landscape all the ease of paradise and Eden's happy plains. Lowly they bowed, adorning, and begun their orisons or origins. So each morning duly paid in various style, for neither various style nor holy rapture wanted they to praise their Maker, in fit strains pronounced or sung unmeditated. Such prompt eloquence flowed from their lips, in prose or numerous verse, more tunable than needed lute or harp to add more sweetness, and they thus began. These are thy glorious works, parent of good Almighty, thine this fame, thus wondrous fair. Thyself how wondrous then, unspeakable, who sittest above these visible or dimly seen in these thy lowest works. Yet these declare thy goodness beyond thought and power divine. Speak, ye who best can tell, ye sons of light, angels, for ye behold him, and with songs and choral symphonies, day without night, circle his throne rejoicing. Ye in heaven, on earth, join all ye creatures to extol him first, him last, him midst, and without end, fairest of stars, last in the train of night, better belong not to the dawn. Sure pledge of day, the bright circlet, praise him in thy fear, while day arise, that sweet hour of prime. Thou son of this great world, I am soul, acknowledge him thy greater, sound his praise in thy eternal world, when thou climbest, and with high noon hast gained, and when thou fallest. Moon, that now meetest the glorious sun, now fliest with the big stars, fixed in their orb that flies, and ye five other wandering fires that move in mystic dance, not without song, resound his praise. Darkness called up light, air, and ye elements, the in quaternion run perpetual circle, multiform, and make and nourish all things. Let your ceaseless change vary to our great now rise from hill or streaming lake, dusky or gray, till the sun paint your fleecy skirts with gold, in honor to the world's greatest art arise, whether to deck with clouds the uncolored sky, or wet the thirsty earth with falling showers, rising or falling, still advance his praise. His praise, ye winds that from four quarters blow, breathe soft or loud, and wave your tops, ye pines, with every plant in sign of worship wave. Fountains, and ye that warble as you flow, melodious murmurs, warbling tune his praise. Join voices, all ye living souls, ye birds that singing up to heaven's gate ascend, bear on your wings and in your notes his praise. Ye that in waters glide, and ye that walk the earth in stately tread or lowly creep, witness if by silent, morn or even, to hill or valley, fountain or fresh shade, made vocal by my song, and taught his praise. Hail, universal Lord, be bounteous still to give us only good, and if the night have gathered aught of evil or concealed, disperse it, as now light dispels the dark. So prayed they innocent, and to their thoughts firm peace recovered soon, and wanted calm. On their morning haste among sweet dews and flowers, where any fruit trees overbeat reach too far their hands to check disgraces, or led the vine to her elm. She spouse of him twines her marriageable arms, and with her bring dower. The adopted clusters to adorn these, thus void, with pity, king, and to him called Raphael, the sociable spirit that deigned to travel with Tobias and secure his marriage with the 7 times wedded maid. Raphael, said he, thou hearest what stir on ear Satan from hell escaped through the darksome gulf, hath raised in paradise, and how third this night human as friend with friend converse with Adam, in what bower or shade thou findest him from the heat of noon retired, to respite his daily repast or with repose, and such discourse bring on, as may advise him of his happy state, happiness in his power, left free to will, left his own free will, his will though free, yet mutable, whence warn him to beware he swerve not, to secure, tell him withal his danger, and from whom, what enemy, late fallen himself from heaven, is plotting now the fall of others from like state of bliss. By violence? No, for that shall be withstood, but by deceit and lies. This let him know, lest, wilfully transgressing, he pretend surprisal, unadmonished, unforewarned. So spake the eternal Father, and fulfilled all justice, nor delayed the winged saint after his charge received, but from among thousand celestial ardors, where he stood veiled with his gorgeous wings, up springing light, flew through the midst of heaven. The angelic choirs on each hand parting, to his speed gave way through all the imperial road, till at the gate of heaven arrived. The gate self opened wide on golden hinges turning, as by work divine the so-called architect had framed. From hence no cloud or to obstruct his sight star interposed, however small he sees, not unconformed to other shining globes, earth as the garden of God, with cedars crowned above all hills, as when by night the glass of Galileo, less assured, observes imagined lands and regions in the moon, or Pilot from amidst the Cyclades, Delos or Samos first appearing, kin a cloudy spot, down thither, prone in flight, he speeds as through that sky, sails between worlds and worlds with steady wing, now on the polar winds, then with quick fan winnows the buxom air, till within soar of towering eagles, to all the fowls he seems a phoenix, gazed by all as that sole bird, when to enshrine his relics in the sun, like temple, to Egyptian deeds flies. Once the eastern of paradise he lights, and to his proper shape returns a seraph winged. 6 wings he wore, to shade his lineaments divine. The parrot that he showed abroad came dancing over his breast, ornament. Little girt like a starry zone, his waist in round skirted girt like a starry zone his waist, and round skirted his loins and thighs with downy gold and colors dipped in heaven. The third, his feet shadowed either heel with feathered mail, sky-turned grain. Like my son, he stood and shook his plumes, that heavenly fragrance filled the circuit wide. Straight knew him all the bands of angels under watch, and to his state and to his message high in honor rise. For on some message high they guessed him bound. Their glittering tents he passed, and now is coming to the blissful field, through groves of myrrh and flowering odors, cassia, nard, and balm. A wilderness of sweets, for nature here was as in her prime, and wheeled her virgin fancies, pouring forth more sweet, wild, above rule or art, enormous bliss, him through the spicy forest on come. Adam discerned, as in the door he sat of his cool bower, while now the mounted sun shot down direct his rays to warm earth's inmost womb, more warmth than Adam needs, and Eve within, due at her hour prepared for dinner, savory foods of taste to please true appetite, and not this thirst of nectar, milky stream, berry or grape, to whom thus Adam called. Haste hither, Eve, and work thy sight. Behold eastward among those trees, a glorious shape comes this way moving. Seems another morn risen on mid-noon. Some great behest from heaven to us perhaps he brings, and will vouchsafe this day to be our guest. Speak, and what thy stores contain bring forth in for abundance, to honor and receive our heavenly stranger. Well we may afford our givers their own gifts, and large bestow from large bestowed, where nature multiplies her fertile growth, and by this burdening grows more fruitful, which instructs us not to spare. To whom thus Eve, Adam Earth's hallowed mold, of God inspired, small store will serve, where store all seasons, ripe for use hangs on the stalk, save what by frugal storing firm is gains to nourish, and superfluous moist consumes. But I will haste, and from each bough and brake, each plant and juiciest gourd, will pluck such choice to entertain our angel guest, as he beholding shall confess that here on earth God hath spent his bounties as in heaven. So saying, with dispatchful looks and haste, she turns on hospitable thoughts intent, what choice to choose for delicacy best, what order so contrived as not to mix taste, not well joined, elegant, but bring taste after taste upheld with kindliest change. Bestirs her then, and from each tender stalk, whatever earth, all there yields in India, east or west, or middle shore and Pontus, or the Punic coast, or where else it rain, fruit of all kinds, in coat rough or smooth or bearded or shell, she hath her tribute large, and on the board heaps unbearing hand. For drink, the great crushes, infants must, and meats made of berry, and kernels pressed, east pole one her thick vessel pure, then shroud with roses oats of the unfumed. Meanwhile, our primitive great sires to meet his godlike guest walk forth without or train, accompanied then with his own complete perfections. In himself was all his state, more solemn than the tedious pomp that waits out on princes, when their rich retinue long of horses led, and grooms besmeared with gold, dazzles the crowd, and sets them all agape. Nearer his presence Adam thought not awed, yet with submissive approach and reverence meek, as to a superior nature, bowing low, but said, native of heaven, for other place none can than heaven such glorious shape contain. Since by descending from the thrones above, those happy places thou hast designed a while to want and honor these, vouchsafe with us two only, who yet by sovereign gift possess this spacious ground, in yonder shady bower to rest, and what the garden choicest beams to sit and taste, till this meridian heat be over, and the sun more cool decline. Whom this Whom thus the angelic virtue answered mild, Adam, I therefore came, nor art thou such created, or such place hast here to dwell, as may not oft invite those spirits of heaven to visit thee. Lead on then where thy bower o'ershades. For these mid hours till evening rise I have at will. So to the sylvan lodge they came, that like Pomona's arbor smiled with flowers decked in fragrant smells. But Eve, undecked save with herself, more lovely fair than wood nymph, or the fairest goddess feigned of three that in Mount Ida naked strove, stood to entertain her guests from heaven. No veil she needed, virtue proof. No thought infirm altered her cheek, on whom the angel Hail bestowed the holy salutation used long after to Blessed Mary, second Eve. Hail, Mother of mankind, whose fruitful womb shall fill the world with more with thy sons than with these various fruits of the trees of God have heaped this table. Raised of grassy turf their table was, and mossy feet had round, and on her ample square side to side. All autumn piled, those spring and autumn here danced hand in hand. A wild discourse they hold, no dinner cool, when thus began our author, to taste bounties, which our treasure, from whom all our food, unmeasured out descends, for food and for delight hath caused earth to yield. Unsavory food, perhaps to spiritual nature, only did I know that one celestial body gives to whom the angel therefore what he is, whose praise be ever sung to man, in part spiritual, may of pure spirits be found no ingrateful food, and food like those pure intelligent substances higher are rational, and both contain them every lower faculty. To the contest of Juno, Minerva, and Venus for the prize of beauty. Of sense whereby they hear, smell, taste, tasting, digest, assimilative, simile, and corporeal. For no what was created needs to be made fed of elements, the grosser beast, the pure earth, the sea, earth, and sea feed and eat those fire theory. And as lowest, the moon, which runs the lots, unheard, they get into her substance turn. Nor does the moon no nourishment exhale from her moist contact to higher orbs. Sun, that light imparts to all, receives from all this elemental defense in human we brush midlips with and find the ground covered with pearly grain. Yet God hath his so with new delights as may compare with heaven. And to taste, think not I shall be nice. So down they sat, and to their viands failed, nor seemingly the angel, nor admissed the common gloss of theologians. But with keen dispatch of real hunger and concoction of heat, the transubstantiate what redounds transpires through spirits with ease. Nor wonder if by fire of sooty coal the empiric alchemist can turn, or holds it possible to turn, metals of drossiest ore to perfect gold, as from the mine. Meanwhile at table, Eve ministered naked, and their flowing cups with pleasant liquors crowned. O innocence deserving paradise, if ever then had the Son of God excuse to have been enamored at that time. But Abel's heart's love of unlimited grain was understood. The inward look, thus when with meats and drinks they had sufficed, not burdened nature, said not to let the occasion pass given him by this great conference. We must throughout these passages charitably bear in mind the fact that Milt's a poet, not a philosopher. In mentioning trees of life and vines in heaven, he is justified by Scripture. See Revelation 22 and 2, Matthew 26 and 29. The usual comments and exposition of divines, for several of the fathers were of opinion that the angels did not really eat, but only seemed to do so. An allusion to Genesis 6 and 2. So, given him by this gate conference to know of things above his world and of their being who's in heaven, whose excellencies shall transcend his own so far, whose radiant forms divine effulgence, whose high power so far exceeded human, and his wary speech thus to the imperial minister he framed. Inhabitant with God, now know I well thy favor, in this honor done to man, under whose lowly roof thou hast vouchsafed to enter, and these earthly fruits to taste, food not of angels, yet accepted, so as that more willingly thou couldst not seem at heaven's high feast to have fed, yet what compared? To whom the winged hierarch replied, O Adam, one Almighty is, from whom all things proceed, and up to him return, if not depraved from good, created all such to perfection, one first matter all, endued with various forms, various degrees of substance, and in things that live of life, but more refined, more spirituous and pure, as nearer to him placed or nearer tending, each in their several active spheres assigned, till body up to spirit, till body up to spirit work in bounds proportion to each kind. So from the root springs lighter the green stalk, from thence the leaves more airy, last the bright flowers, odors breathe breath, flowers and their man's sufficient by to biosphere aspires to animal to give both life and sense, fancy understanding, whence the soul reason receives, and reason is her being, discursive or intuitive. Discourse is oftest yours, the latter most is ours, differing but in degree, of kind the same. Wonder not then what God for you saw good, if I refuse not but convert as you to proper substance. Time may come when men with angels may participate, and find no inconvenient diet, nor too light fare. And from these corporal nutriments, perhaps your bodies may at last turn all to spirit, improved by tract of time and winged ascend ethereal, as we or may, at choice, here or in heavenly paradises dwell, if ye be found obedient and retain unalterably from firm his love entire. Not absolutely good, but perfect in their different kinds and degrees, inferential, argumentative. Whose progeny you are, meanwhile, enjoy your field what happiness this happy state can comprehend, incapable of more. To whom the patriarch of mankind replied, O favorable spirit, propitious guest, well hast thou taught the way that might direct our knowledge, and the scale of nature set from center to circumference, whereon, in contemplation of created things, by steps we may ascend to God. But say, what meant that caution joined, if ye be found obedient? Can we want obedience then to him, or possibly his love desert, who formed us from the dust and taught us here, full to the utmost measure of what bliss human desires can seek or apprehend? To whom the angel, son of heaven and earth, attend, that thou art happy, O God, that thou continuest such, O to thyself. That is, to thy obedience therein stand. This was the caution given thee. Be advised, God made thee perfect, not immutable. And God he made thee, but to persevere, he left it in thy power, ordained thy will, thy nature free, not overruled by fate, inextricable, or strict necessity. Our voluntary service he requires, not our necessitated. Such with him finds no acceptance, nor can find. For how can hearts not free be tried whether they serve willing or no? Who will but what they must be by destiny, and can no other choose? Myself and all the angelic host that stand in sight of God enthroned, our happy state hold, as you yours, while our obedience holds. On other surety note, freely we serve, because we freely love, as in our will to love or not. In this we stand or fall, and some are fallen, to disobedience fallen, and so from heaven to deepest hell. Oh, fall from what high state of bliss into what woe! To whom our greatest progenitor, thy words attentive and with more delighted ear, divine instructor, I have heard, that when cherubic songs by night from neighboring hills aerial music send, nor knew I not to be both will and deed created free, yet that we never shall forget to love our Maker and obey him, whose command single is yet so just. My constant thoughts assured me, and still assure, though what thou tellest hath passed in heaven, some doubt within me move, but more desire to hear. If thou consent the full relation, which must needs be strange, worthy of sacred silence to be heard, and we have yet large day, for scarce the sun hath finished half his journey, and scarce begins his other half in the great zone of heaven. Thus Adam made request, and Raphael, after short pause assenting, thus began: High matter thou enjoinest me, O prime of men, sad task at hand, sad task and hard. For how shall I relate to human sense the invisible exploits of warring spirits? How, without remorse, the ruin of so many glorious once and perfect while they stood? How last untold the secrets of another world, perhaps not lawful to reveal? Yet for thy good this is dispensed, and what surmounts the reach of human sense, I shall delineate so. By likening spiritual to corporal forms, as may express them best, what if earth be but the shadow of heaven, and things therein each to other like, more than on earth is thought? And yet this world was not in chaos wild, reigning where beneath heaven now roll, where on earth poised. when on a day for time, though in eternity, applied to motion, measures all things durable by present, past, and future. On such a day as heaven's great year brings forth the imperial angels by imperial summons called innumerable before the Almighty's throne, forthwith from all the ends of heaven appeared under their hierarchs in order to write. 10,000 insights, high advanced standards, and golfulans, quick, they came in the air, distinction of hierarchies of order and degrees, or in their glittering tissue, their emblazed whole memorials, acts of zeal and love recorded in it. Thus, when an order inexpressibly stood forward, or the Father infinite, by whom in woods embosomed sat the sun. A mist as from flaming whose top brightness had made invisible, thus spake. Hear, all ye angels, progeny of light, thrones, dominations, princedoms, virtues, powers, hear my decree, which unrevoked shall stand. This day I have begot whom I declare my only son, and on this holy hill him have anointed, whom ye now behold at my right hand. Your head I him appoint, and by myself have sworn to him shall bow all knees in heaven, and shall confess him Lord. Under his great vicegerent reign abide united as one individual soul. Forever happy, him who disobeys, me disobeys, breaks union, and that day cast out from God, and blessed vision falls into utter darkness, deep engulfed, his place ordained without redemption, without end. So spake the Omnipotent, and with his words all seemed well pleased. All seemed, but were not all that day, as other solemn days. They spent in song and dance about the sacred hill. Mystical dance, which yonder starry sphere of planets and affixed in all her wheels resembles nearest, mazes intricate, eccentric, intervolved, yet regular than most, when most irregular they seem. And in their motions harmony divine so smooths her charming tones, that God's own ear listens delighted. Evening now approached, for we have also our evening and our morn. We ours for change delectable, not need. Forthwith from day to sweet repast they turn desirous, all in circles as it are set, and on a sudden piled with angels' food. Ruby nectar flows in pearl and diamond and massy gold, fruit of delicious vines, the growth of heaven. On flowers reposed, and with the fresh flowers crowned, they eat, they drink, and in communion sweet quaff immortality and joy. Secure or surfeit, where full measure only bounds excess, before the all bounteous King, who showered with copious hand, rejoicing in their joy. Now when ambrosial night with clouds exhaled from that high mount of God, whence light and shade bring forth, the face of brightest heaven had changed to grateful twilight, for night comes not there in darker veil, and roseate dews disposed. All but the unsleeping eyes of God to rest, wide over all the plain, and wider far than all this globous earth and plain outspread. Such are the courts of God, the angelic throng, dispersed in bands and files, their camp extend by living streams among the trees of life. Pavilions numberless, tabernacles where the cool with coarse, melodious hymns about this so the sovereign throne alternate all night long. But not so with Satan, so call him now. His former name is heard no more in heaven. He of the first, if not the first archangel, great in power, in favor, and preeminence, yet fraught with envy against the Son of God, that day honored by his great Father, and proclaimed Messiah King anointed, but not bare through pride that sight, and thought himself impaired. deep malice thence conceiving and disdain, soon as midnight brought on the dusky hour, friendliest to sleep in silence, he resolved with all his legions to dislodge, leave unworshipped, unobeyed, the throne supreme, contemptuous, and his next subordinate awakening, thus to him in secret spake. Sleepest thou, companion dear? What sleep can close thy eyelids and rememberest what decree of yesterday? So late hath passed the lips of heaven's Almighty. Thou to me thy thoughts was what want, I mine to thee was wont to impart. Both waking we were one. How then can thy sleep dissent? New laws thou seest imposed, new laws from him who reigns, new minds may raise in us who serve, new counsels to debate what doubtful may ensue. More in this place to utter is not safe. Assemble thou of all those myriads which we led the chief. Tell them that by command, ere yet dim night her shadowy cloud withdraws, I am to haste, and all who under me their banners wave, homeward with flying march where we possess the quarters of the north. There to prepare fit entertainment to receive our king, the Messiah, and his new commands, who speedily through all the hierarchy intends to pass triumphant and law. So spake the false angel, and infused that influence into the unwary breast disassociated. He together calls of several one by one the regent powers under him regents was taught that the most high commanding now ere now night had encumbered heaven. The great hierarchical standard was to move the child and pass between ambiguous words and jealousies to sound or taint integrity, but all obeyed the wanted signal and superior voice of their great potentate. For great indeed his name, and high was his decree in heaven. His countenance as the morning star that guides the starry flock allured them, and with lies drew after him the third part of heaven's host. Meanwhile, the eternal eye, whose sight discerns abstruse thoughts, from forth his holy mount, and from within the golden lamps that burned nightly before him, saw without their light rebellion rising, saw in whom, how spread among the sons of morn, what multitudes were banded to oppose his high decree, and smiling, his son thus said, Son, thou in whom my glory I behold in full resplendence, heir of all my might, nearly it now concerns us to be sure of our omnipotence, and with what arms we mean to hold what anciently we claim of deity or empire. Such a foe is rising, who intends to erect his throne, nor so content having his thought to try how he is or our Levi's, and to this hazard draw with what force is left, and all in our defense, lest unawares we lose this our high place, our sanctity. To whom the sun, with calm aspect and clear lightning divine, ineffable, serene, made answer, Mighty Father, thou thy foes justly hast derision, and secure laughest at their designs and tumults vain. Matter to me of glory, whom their hate illustrates, when they see all regal power given to me to quell their pride, and in event know whether I be dexterous to the rebel, or bound in heaven. So spake the sun, but Satan with his powers far was advanced on winged speed, and innumerable as the stars of night, or stars of morning, dewdrops, which the sun impearls on every leaf and every flower. Regions they passed, the mighty regencies of seraphim and potents, and thrones in their triple degrees. Region to which all thy dominion, Adam, is no more than that what this garden is to all the earth, and all sea from one entire globos stretching to longitude. As in the limit of the north, they came and blessing as a mount based on a mount which is endowed with diamonds hewn and rocks of gold. The dialectic breaker, so-called that structure in the dialect of which not long after he effected equality with God into that mount whereon Messiah was declared the son of the congregation called. For thither he assembled all his train, and with calumnious art of counterfeited truth thus held their ears. Thrones, dominations, princedoms, virtues, powers, if these magnific titles yet remain not merely titular, since by decree another now hath to himself engrossed all power, and us eclipsed under the name of King anointed, for whom all this haste of midnight march and hurried meeting here, this only to consult, how we may best with what may be devised of honors new receive him coming to receive from us need tribute yet unpaid, prostration vile too much to one, but double how endured to one and to his image now proclaimed. But what if better counsels might erect our minds and teach us to cast off this yoke? Will ye submit your necks and choose to bend the supple knee? Ye will not, if I trust to know ye right, or if ye know yourselves, natives and sons of heaven, possessed before by none, and if not equal all, yet free, equally free, for orders and degrees jar not with liberty, but well consist. Who can in reason then or right assume monarchy over such as live by right his equals, if in power and splendor less in freedom equal, or can introduce law and indict us on and edict on us, who without law err not? Much less for this to be our Lord and look for adoration to the abuse of those imperial titles which assert our being ordained to govern, not to serve. Thus far his bold discourse without control had audience, when among the seraphim Abdiel, than whom none with more zeal adored the deity, and divine commands obeyed, stood up and in a flame of zeal severe the current of his fury thus opposed. O argument blasphemous, false and proud, words which no ear ever to hear in heaven expected, least of all from thee, ingrate, and place thyself so high above thy peers. Canst thou with impious obloquy condemn the just decree of God, pronounced and sworn that to his only Son, by right endured with regal scepter, every soul in heaven shall bend the knee, and in that honor do confess him rightful King? Unjust, thou sayest flatly unjust, to bind with laws the free, and equal over equals to let reign, one over all with unsucceeded power. Shalt thou give law to God? Shalt thou dispute with him the points of liberty, who made thee what thou art, and formed the powers of heaven such as he pleased, and circumscribed their being? Yet, by experience taught, we know how good, and of our good, and of our dignity, how provident he is, how far from thought to make us less, bent rather to exalt our happy state under one head more near united. But to grant it thee unjust, that equal over equals monarch reign, thyself, thou great and glorious, dost thou count, or all angelic nature joined in one, equal to him begotten Son, by whom, as by his word, the mighty Father made all things, even thee, and all the spirits of heaven by him created in their bright degrees, crowned them with glory, and to their glory named. That is, who can assume monarchy, much less can anyone introduce law, or that this one, the Messiah, to be our Lord, and seek adoration by the abuse of these titles. The passage is, however, far from satisfactory and has given rise to much discussion. Their glory named thrones, dominations, princedoms, virtues, powers, essential powers, nor by his reign obscured, but more illustrious made, since he the head, one of our number thus reduced becomes, his laws our laws, all honor to him done returns our own. Cease then this impious rage and tempt not these, but hasten to appease the incensed Father and the incensed Son, while pardon may be found in time besought. So spake the fervent angel, but his zeal none seconded, as out of season judged, or singular and rash. Whereat rejoiced the apostate, and more haughty, thus replied: That we were formed then, sayest thou, and the work of secondary hands by task transferred from father to his son. Strange point and new doctrine which we would know whence learned, who saw when this creation was. Rememberest thou thy making, while the Maker gave thee being? We know no time when we were not as now, no none before us, self begot, self raised, by our own quickening power. When fatal course had circled his full orb, the birth mature of this our native heaven, ethereal sons. Our puissance is our own right had our own right hand shall teach us highest deeds, by proof to try who is our equal. Then thou shalt behold whether by supplication we intend address, and to begirt the almighty throne beseeching or besieging. This report these tidings carry to the anointed king, and fly ere evil intercept thy flight. He said, and as the sound of waters deep, hoarse murmur echoed to his words applause through the infinite host, nor less for that the flaming seraph, fearless, though alone, encompassed round with foes, thus answered bold: O alienate from God, O spirit accursed, forsaken of all good, I see thy fall determined, and thy hapless crew involved in this perfidious fraud, contagion spread both of thy crime and punishment. Henceforth no more be troubled how to quit the yoke of God's Messiah. Those indulgent laws will not be now vouchsafed. Other decrees against thee are gone forth without recall. That golden scepter which thou didst reject is now an iron rod to bruise and break thy disobedience. Well thou didst advise, yet not for thy advice or threats I fly. These wicked tents devoted, lest the wrath impotent, raging into sudden flame, distinguish not, for soon expect to feel his thunder on thy head, devouring fire. Then who created thee lamenting learn, when who can uncreate thee, thou shalt know. So spake the seraph Abdiel, faithful found among the faithless, faithful only he, among innumerable false, unmoved, unshaken, unseduced, unterrified. His loyalty he kept, his love, his zeal, nor number, nor example with him wrought to swerve from truth, or change his constant mind, though single. From amidst them forth he passed, long way through hostile scorn, which he sustained superior, nor of violence feared aught. And with retorted scorn his back he turned on those proud towers to swift destruction doomed. And that is the end of the fifth book. All right, we're going to leave it here and be back for book 6. The argument continues. Thanks again for listening. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Peace.